Okay, here we go. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. I am your host, John Espinosa. To the Leading Leaders podcast. You have written, you're a master of communication. You've written courses and you've taught communication over the years. Why do you believe that interpersonal communication skills are so important, and why aren't, if they are important, which I believe you believe that, why aren't organizations focusing on them?
How's it feel not getting talked to? You just learned the lesson why communication is important.
Yeah.
Now, why do organizations do that? It's simple. We've never trained anybody to communicate. Now, here, if I said to you, so one of the things that's important to understand when you're talking with somebody is you're wanting to talk with them. You want to create this sense of connection.
Yeah.
It's one of the things I have a problem when people just isolate active listening or something. People really don't understand exactly what happens when two people communicate. So if I said to you, an axiom in communication is the message you create and send to somebody, the meaning of that message resides in the mind of the receiver of that message.
Wow.
So you create a message over here and you send it to somebody, it's all going to depend upon them. So what's involved in all of that? So, and the reason I'm saying this, and I'll send you a primer video I did to talk about this, and you can put it in your description. But
sure,
we talk about active listening being really critical. It's very important. And feedback is, I call it the breakfast of champions for communication. However, it's just two components of a system of communication. The first thing is you're wanting to say something to somebody. There's a purpose behind what you say. Even when you walk by somebody, you just go, hi, you're not expecting an active listening role on the other person's part, like they're sitting there listening, wonder what the hell he means by hi, is that a good, is it bad? Are things going to go okay today? Or what? If you set that off and that kind of conversation, be critical. Active listening is something you use maybe 5% of your communication life. You do how many, 40,000 words a day or something? I doubt very seriously you active listening to 1% of those words a day. How many times did you active listening today? Probably not very many. And that's okay. I understand that. I understand why. But the deal was, if I understand I have a message to send to John, and I know something about John, I know your background. I know your history. I know your work. I know you're a family man. I know you like, helping people a lot. I know all of this about you. I know your ideology. I know your what kind of turns you on are those things. So if I want you to do something, I create a message with that in mind. I'm really creating the message the way you want to hear it. And if I can do that, then I'm ahead. Now, if there's a big variance, and one of the things I do in a video that I'm going to show you is there's this lady, Carmen. This is an actual situation I consulted with. She was brought up, started on the line, 40 years old, started on the line, worked her way up, director of operations. Then she moved over and took the director of operations role. And she bumped into a guy who's an international vice president out of Saudi Arabia. Names are changed, but Ali, we'll call him Ali. And Ali is a young guy, fairly young guy, master's out of Harvard, vice president of international marketing. He created a marketing plan for this manufacturing group. And it was just going to obliterate her team. Or, I mean,
Wow.
they would have to work night and day to hit the goal. He sold his sales pitch to the executive team, and it is a good. I mean, that's what they needed. But she was so scared to death that they couldn't deliver it. And so she came to me and she said, I'm going to call Ollie and I'm going to tell him he has to change his marketing plan. I'm going, let's talk about that a minute. Just 1 second before you make that call. And this is way back when, before we had video conferencing. Yeah, so I'm going, let's talk about this. So, what do you know about Ali? I know he's in Saudi Arabia. He's a young, upstarting, guy, thinks he knows it all. Vice president of marketing, Harvard business degree. Like Harvard is important. Yeah, Harvard doesn't get those guys to do the work down here. And I'm going, but he has that position. He has that title. And you know this about him. What else do you know about him? What do you know about people who live in Saudi Arabia? Not much. I said, well, I've been there. I know a little bit. I think Ollie might have a slight different opinion about women's role in business. Now, you say you worked your way up. You're equal wage earner with your husband. You were the head of your union. You were fighting for all of this stuff, equal rights, all that kind of stuff. Ollie doesn't care about that. In fact, he kind of thinks that's not what you should be doing. So when you start to present this issue that you need Ollie to hear and understand, and it's important because it's going to screw up operations. I mean, did he talk to you about it? No, he didn't say anything. I said, okay. So if you go to Ollie and say, hey, Ollie, I think you need to change your marketing plan because it doesn't work for operations, what do you think he's going to respond? Let's just take that, And so that's a barrier. There's a culture barrier. There's an educational barrier. There's an ideological barrier. There's a lot of barriers there that are in the way already of him hearing what you want to say that's important that he needs to hear. So what do you think is important to Ollie? Well, he needs to get sales up. I said, yeah. So sales is a motivator. That's a reward structure for Ollie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what if you couched your message a little differently and said, Ollie, I got a problem. And I think, I need your help with this. If you can help me, I'd like to talk to you about helping me. Here's what you recommended. Here's some of the things that go. And I really think that what you want to get in there needs to get done. But I'm not sure we're capable of doing that. And we didn't discuss that before you made the presentation. And I really want you to get those sales because that helps us too. If you get those sales, our bonuses go up too. So I don't know. I'm scared. I don't. I said, one, you played out first. Got rid of the male-female thing. You're asking for help. Does that bother you? That's not the way. But does it bother you? I mean, if you guess what you want for your people, no. Secondly, you're tackling on to what he considers important. You're playing on his expertise skill set to help you. Okay. And he'll learn something about your operations if he's helping you do it. Do you think that might? Anyway, we went through that process and we eliminated all those barriers before she picked up the phone and sent the message to the guy. And when she did, Ollie's response was, holy mackerel, I didn't know that. Let me give you a call and let's get back. Let's see, tell me more and I'll see what I can do to help you. There it goes. He's changing his marketing plan, okay, for her. Now that was an actual situation to help him, but she did not have the skill set because she had never been taught that there are barriers to communication and nonverbal barriers. Like right now, we're on video, and that's good. If you took me off video and I was talking without you seeing me, you couldn't determine a lot about how I feel about this stuff. My nonverbal cues, none of that would be coming across. So that's the importance of communication Without it, nothing happens. I have a second axiom, and that one is if there's more than one person involved, everything begins with interpersonal communication and it ends with interpersonal communication. Nobody's convinced me yet. I don't care what you do in your career and life, family life, church, organization, friends. If there's more than one of you, it normally starts with a conversation. If you have the ability to control and manage that conversation up front, you minimize the amount of feedback you need and the amount of time you spend active listening. Okay, so there are a lot of barriers, how you create your message, nonverbal communication's a barrier, all these other external, even the idea of whether or not your headphone goes out here or something. All of those are barriers. So communication becomes an exceptionally important element. You have an organization, there's no way you get a culture. There's no way you get your objectives and your goals and your roles and all of this stuff permeating the organization. We spend a lot of time sending senior people and executive leaders and directors, those kinds of people off to training for active listening. And we don't spend any time teaching them what I just told you, but we'll teach them feedback. We'll teach them active listening. But you know what? We spend virtually no time or money teaching their employees that. Because if they knew that, they could also apply these concepts in interfacing with a leader. And a leader could be struggling, and you might still have an employee or group of employees who can resolve that issue if they had that same skill set. So that's another aspect of the Renaissance side that people aren't going to want to hear because it's a money increase or it takes time and energy and you're focusing on something other than a functional task role. You're building a community and that kind of stuff. So therein lies the importance of communication. And everybody I've talked to, I can't remember anybody I've talked to hardly that has had this level of trying to walk you through the systems, what happens to the sender, the receiver, the methods that we deliver, the feedback, the active listening, then you loop that in. The more we talk, if we talked for days or months or years together, we would get closer at being able to almost, guess what you might say about something before you said it. If I get that close to you, if we have that kind of tight in communication, you have the ability to enhance your servant leadership tenfold or 10x, I think the way Gen Z are going today.
So, whoa. So what you're saying, Vic, is I have to know my audience. I got to know my people in order to effectively communicate with them.
Well, sure. You got to. It's more than knowing them. You got to discover yourself with them. It's like I'm not talking to you as an employee. I'm talking to you as John, and I like John. I think
that
he's
is
got a
gold.
great career in front of him, and I would love to share everything I know over 50 years with John. But you're not going to be interested if we don't sit down and have a beer or coffee and just chat and talk, get to know each other. As we get to know each other, we'll begin to understand each other. And by the way, this is a two-way street. The employee gets to understand what motivates the boss, and you get to talk about strengths and weakness and how I can help you. And you get to learn to see in a team who has what specific attributes that you're looking for, and you learn when to let them have it. If you're in the middle of a situation and it's hot and it's going on and you have to make decisions instantly on that situation, and you're the leader of that group, but you don't have the expertise for that particular problem that you're dealing with. Maybe it's a technical problem and things are going to hell in a handbag and You just got a call from the CEO. He says, you better clean this up in the next half hour, and you got your team together and you're fighting it like crazy. And you're trying to guide it, but the guy that has the real knowledge is that little technician on the computer who put this all together, and you're going, but you're not allowing him to pop up and say, hey, I think I can handle this real quick. Let's try this, and this. And if that didn't work, you try something else, but you let him go to work on it. You step back and you let him have the reins. And if you fail together, but chances are you're going to have a greater chance of succeeding if you allow that interactiveness to happen. But you've got to learn what's going on between you and other people in order to be able to discover that more. And it's kind of like empathy. We train empathy. We give you definition. We give you videos. But if you've never really felt empathy, you got all the hardware, but you don't have the software.
Yeah.
You just really are not grabbing it, So leaders have to learn how to see if this is going on or not within their ranks and within their people and within themselves. And that's why that psychological side is so important. I say you need a psychological profile, because not everybody's suited to be a leader. It's okay not to be a leader. Yeah. In fact, there are more followers than there are leaders in organizations, so.
I got to produce this many widgets. I don't have the time to get to know my people.
Who produces the widgets, John?
Well, Vic, my employees do,
you?
But that's why we can't talk.
Yeah.
No, it's not me. But I got to make sure that they're working.
So let's think about this. And I'm not going to do this, but suppose we did this. Suppose I took all your employees and we got some coffee and we all went out in the parking lot. What would happen, John?
We would stop producing the widgets and I'd probably get fired.
Yeah. So what's the best way to get those widgets produced, John?
Well, Vic, I see where you're going, but they got to be working. I'm on a tight time schedule here, and I have to have them work.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to meet that time schedule if they're not engaged on it. If they're so what would happen if we brought them all in and said, we got this tight timetable and we're falling way behind. What do you guys think we need to do to fix this up? How long do you think that would take? First of all, do you feel every one of your people are pretty competent?
Oh, I got the sharpest team. Sharpest team in this whole entire planet.
Of course, because you hired them, right, John? Okay.
Yeah.
So if you got the sharpest team, I'm guessing they probably have the best answers to solve this problem and get it done quickly. They're probably also going to tell you why you got there to start with. Do you want to do that during this 8 hours? We've got to try to get things done. If you're not going to do it then, take them out and have a drink with them after the work day. Go to what I call is the West Office. The West Office, I learned this when I was a consultant, where I learned all the honest before that people put out on the air. You go in the office. I went over after a session at team building. So I went over in an office, and it would happen to be on the west side of where we were, a little restaurant and a bar. And I was sitting in the bar having dinner, and the team that I was training came in, and they saw me, and they came in and asked if they could join me. And the stuff I learned after we were out of the work environment, where I could just, I had the tie off, I had all of that stuff. I was listening. They were going, now, is this between you and us? And I'm going, absolutely. No question about it. I would never say anything unless you tell me it's okay. Okay, I'm not going to ever say anything. And they let it go. And I was going, this team building is the wrong approach. This isn't what we need to be doing. We need to go back and take a different look at. So that's when we instituted a 360-degree assessment on that whole group. And out of that came then we stopped training them for a while. We started with the leaders. because when the leaders took this stuff home and they came back and they went, like, I said, well, what did you discover from the assessment? And they went, wow, it's a wake-up call. I call it a wake-up call. And I called them wake-up calls after that. And I called the West Office after that. That was early in my career. It was one of the first things I learned. I was doing a team building session with the wrong group. Yeah, they didn't need it. They were a team. I mean, I discovered that in 35 minutes of beer. I discovered every one of those people were a team. They did not need team building session. The leader needed the team building session. So that's the dynamic of learning how to communicate with people, talk with people, and to be able to draw out of them in a transparent, comfortable way, in a casual, conversational way, the reality of what's going on, because unless that surfaces, I don't care if it's a company, if it's a marriage, if it's a crisis situation you're dealing with kids, whatever that is, you have to let that out. And nobody's perfect at it. I mean, I've had my share of my problems in my life with this, but I've learned, and lately in my latter years, how absolutely critical this transparency is, and how difficult it is to push down in an organization with the current way we look at leaders. Functionally, just what you said. I got to deliver this. This is my role. I got to deliver this. Well, no, you don't. Your people have to deliver it. And if they can't do it all, there's some folks over next door that are in the marketing department that might be able to come over and lend a hand. Or there's a whole community around you who could help you if you open the door. The door.
Yeah. I think one of the things that COVID has taken away from us is those after hours, or those conversations. It is from one meeting to the next meeting. I click start meeting, and then meeting ends, I click stop meeting. There's no small talk. There's no water cooler. There's no break rooms. It is jumping from one place to the next place. So my question to you, what would you advise a leader who may have a virtual team? What are some tips, tricks, advice that you could give to them to help create those after hours combos?
Yeah, we started this in 1999, somewhere in there, with team over and manufacturing group over in Europe and Germany, and then we had teams in Germany and South America and America, and that was one of the things we were trying to do, is create virtual before we had any of this stuff. And one of the things I realized straight on, first thing out, the leader who leads a virtual team is different than most other leaders. Different than if you go into the office every day. The employee who is a true remote working employee is different. It's different than the average employee in there. So you have to select, if you want a remote team, you have to look at that team being different than the team you're going to have in the office. They have to enjoy that. If you're looking for interaction, if you're looking for togetherness, if you're looking for, the need to be part of something, and you're working remote, you're going to be a pretty miserable employee. So the first things we have to teach leaders today is there's a difference. The second thing we have to teach them is you need to allow the difference. Don't try to mold somebody into something they're not. Allow the difference. Allow the honesty to say, I really don't want to come in there even for 2 days a week. I've got all this other crap that's I'm working well. I'm getting my product out, and I'm getting my kids to school, and I don't pay childcare, and I'm saving a lot of money doing this, guys, and I really like it, and I can handle it. I'm okay, and I don't need the water cooler talk. but I will be there if you tell me. And some of that was how you start the team. You don't start a team remotely. You start a team bringing them in, and you hold 2 or 3 or 4 days of a high performance team building as a virtual team. And all of the dynamics of what you're going to have to do and be able to do, and you get all that lined out, and you get to know each other, and then you bring them back. Not every day, not saying you got to be in here 3 days a week. You can bring them back once a quarter, and don't make that a work day. Make that a togetherness time. We're going to come in for 2 days. We'll meet. I'll tell you what. We'll meet in San Diego for 2 days. There's a lot of places you can go in San Diego. They're great.
Oh yeah.
And let's just sit around and talk about what's working and what's not. Let's not try to solve any problems here. Okay. Let's just enjoy each other and learn this stuff. Now that's communication.
Yeah.
That's communication.
Yeah.
And you're telling somebody who says, man, you need to put in 8 hours a day. You're telling them it's okay not to do that. You have to start there at the top of the organization. You have to have somebody sitting down with that team of executives and saying, what do you want? Do you want this? Do you want your company working or not? If you do, and it's a virtual potential issue, then there's all kinds of options you have. But you got to get everybody in here to discuss them and not work. Have fun at it. Yeah. And when you walk away from that, I promise you, your engagement level will go from 30% to 90%. You will be at that top tier. You will be that best practices company that Pew and Gallup and everybody, Harvard Business Review and everybody talks about. But you're not going to get it demanding. You're not going to get it by trying to structure it into a business problem. It's not a business problem. It's a people problem.
Yeah.
I spent a whole lot of time teaching leaders how to communicate effectively using this model I put together. That's where these 12 course attributes came from. It's what I know worked, helping leaders get this personality, if you will, this personality of effective interpersonal communication. And then because they know what it's about, they understand it, they can allow people to talk about how it works for everybody in the organization. But until you do that, you can't. Then you start dictating, and when you start dictating, you begin to see the satisfaction levels go down.
Yeah.
So,
well,
if you
no, go ahead, finish. Yeah, and listeners, you didn't know you were getting a master class on communication with Vic today, because that is exactly what Vic is delivering. So, Vic, our time is ending, but I want to ask you one more question, because
sure,
as a listener out there that watch the podcast, whether they're thinking about making the leap into leadership or they're new in leadership, what would be the single best piece of advice that you could give them to let them know that there is hope,
Well, first of all, hope is something you really should have all the time. The best way to find out if there's hope, let's put it that way, is to talk to some of the leaders and talk to them outside of an interview. If I can get leaders not to do interviews in offices, that'd be great. I'd love for them to do them over breakfast, over lunch, not dinner, not drinks. Breakfast and lunch are great times to get to know people and totally disarm them. You're sitting at a round table, you got coffee, you got eggs in front of you. You find out whether they spilled eggs on their shirt and they're real people or not, I don't care if they have a red tie and a blue suit, or whether they have a aloha shirt on, or whatever it is. That's not what is going to deliver for me. What's going to deliver for me is who that person is and whether they fit. And I never conduct an interview. I conduct a discussion. And sometimes that person knows nothing about the functional things I want done. I can train that with all of those high quality people I got. They can take this person and get them. If they have the capability, I'll decide that. But it's whether they will have fun and be part of making it happen. Because I don't want to be in the John I was talking to earlier who's trying to get out of a problem that, by the way, John probably dug for himself. Okay. I want my people engaged on every high critical thing. They have to be totally engaged with me. They have to have total sense of accountability and responsibility with me together. And my role is try to help them get there and do that. Their role is to do it. And that's what leadership is. So if you don't, it's a thankless job, by the way. If you are looking for accolades, if you're looking for money, if you're looking for, and that's a problem with organizations, and they create leadership levels with more money, and it's functionally based.
Yeah.
To me, the CEO who leads a company is no different than the crew leader on that automobile manufacturing plant floor. They're both leaders. They both have to have certain skill sets, certain mental attitudes, certain emotional capabilities, certain communication capabilities. I don't care. Now, their span of control and all of that may vary, but that's not leadership. That's span of control and value of your work, or whatever you want to call it. And that's necessary. That's important. But the leadership side of it is different. It needs to be dealt with differently than we have been dealing with for the last 4 decades. But then again, you got to get in front of somebody to teach them how to do it first. So.
Well, Vic, again, thank you very much.
With that. I'm passing this on to you, so good luck with that.
Well, first, before we go, I appreciate that. I really do, and I appreciate our time together. Anytime that I can, have a conversation with a thought leader is a great day. And you're right. Surround yourself with community of leaders. If you're out there, struggling or questioning why you got into leadership, or you have a challenge that, you just need to talk through, find that thought partner, find somebody that you can sit down with, like a Vic, and be honest, open, lay it all out on the table. I love the idea of breakfast and lunch. I'm a big foodie, so I have some great places here in Oklahoma that I'd love to sit down with Vic, but he is exactly right. He is exactly right. So, Vic, I am super excited that you were able to come on today. Before we jump off, though,
my pleasure.
I want you to tell the listeners where they can go, where they can go find you, where they can go listen to you, and if they're interested in your course, where they can find that as well.
Sure, that's the course is on my website. It's victorvogel.com. And it's under interpersonal. It's a tab called interpersonal communication, and that's there. The books are found on my Buy Me a Coffee format. If you go to my website, if you go to LinkedIn and see me there, if you go to YouTube, where I have, it's called Building Renaissance Leaders, that's there. Normally, if you're Googling Victor L. Vogel, all of this is going to pop up under Google. But all of that information is there. And the thing is, don't be afraid to call me and chat, because I don't charge for chats. I just don't charge for chats. It's one of the things that, you pass it on. That's where I am in my life right now. It's time to pass it on to folks and try to get some people who are interested, because I doubt if I'll have enough time to get this to where I think it needs to be, but other people could.
Yeah.
other people could. Other people with more resources can. And that's my deal. My deal, I create what I think is something that people could change and create a renaissance and create excitement with that. The same excitement people were having when they were running around and painting and creating masterful music and all that kind of stuff. That's the environment you want in your life right now in business. Absolutely beyond my understanding why leaders don't do something about that. I know they're driven by money, but that money is going to exponentially grow if they have the kind of workforce and environment that benefits from it also. So that's part of it. But you can find me on YouTube. You can find me on LinkedIn. Usually typing Victor Vogel in any of those areas will drag me up. Google will drag me up, and probably other stuff. Who knows? But that's where you can find me, and I'll send some links to you that you can put in your description.
Perfect.
And there's some free videos in there about the communication model that I talked about. I'll let you folks have that, and then if somebody has questions, I'm pretty easy to get online.
Awesome. Well, Victor, you are a true leader, and you're just a genuine human being. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for sharing your knowledge and your wealth with our listeners today. And who knows, we may do this again, because I didn't even get to half of my questions today that, I wanted Victor to answer. So I'd love to have you on
good. That's good. The first thing I try to do is destroy a format of questions and just talk.
Well, you executed.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't tell you that up front.
You executed it perfectly. So thank you.
Good.
Everybody,
all right.
Go be great. Thank you for joining us today. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
If you like what you're hearing, do us a favor, click on that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, or leave a comment. That lets us know that what we are putting out benefits you. If you want additional information or resources or learn how to work with me, head on over to thejohnespinosa.com, because when we become better versions of ourselves, it helps us get others to where they're going. Go be great. Talk to everyone later. If you like what you're hearing, do us a favor, click on that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, or leave a comment. That lets us know that what we are putting out benefits you. If you want additional information or resources or learn how to work with me, head on over to thejohnespinosa.com, because when we become better versions of ourselves, it helps us get others to where they're going. Go be great. Talk to everyone later.